The end times have arrived, and the high temperature weather has led to a global shortage of water resources. Every night, I go out with my parents to collect condensed water on the rock walls. However, my parents give my share of the water to my younger brother just because he wants to wash his hair before going on a date. Not only that, in order to raise the bride price for my brother, they even killed me and recycled my blood to exchange for money. When I closed my eyes and opened them again, I was back 3 days before I was killed. 1. I suddenly opened my eyes and touched my neck. The excruciating pain still echoed in my mind. I looked at the time on the monitor. Isn't this 3 days before my brother's proposal? My throat was so dry that it felt like it was about to explode. I picked up the water cup, but there was not a drop of water in it. I walked around the house. The water storage tank was locked by my father, and only they had the keys. I had no right to access the water. So I put on my protective suit and went to the underground city in search of water resources. It was still swelteringly hot. Everyone was wearing special clothes designed to recycle the moisture produced by breathing. I touched the water storage bag on my back. There was very little water in it, and my throat was parched. Yesterday afternoon, under the lash of my parents, I ran wildly on the treadmill, sweating profusely. All the recycled water was used to wash my brother's hair. Sis, run faster. Or maybe eat some chili peppers. At this rate, I won't be able to go on my date. My brother muttered. Lucy, keep going. Don't stop. My father said sternly. Kevin's girlfriend is a young lady from the city. If we marry her, we won't have to worry about water anymore. I collapsed to the ground due to exhaustion. My mother quickly took off the water storage bag on my back and poured the water into a wash basin to wash my brother's hair. Oh, my dear son, you look so handsome today. After washing his hair, my brother went out satisfied. As for me, I was in the ground, ignored. I said weakly, Water, Dad, Mom, please give me a glass of water. My chapped lips rubbed against each other. My father completely ignored me. As if he had accomplished a great task, he rushed out with a bottle of water to relax. My mother said, Lucy, sit up and meditate, then you won't need to drink water. You know how precious water is. Be good, too. I clawed at the ground with my fingers, slowly stood up by leaning against the wall, and walked towards the water storage tank. Fortunately, my father left in a hurry and didn't lock it. I leaned in and drank, but my mother grabbed me and pulled me back. I fell to the ground. Fortunately, I managed to drink some water. I wiped the corners of my mouth. You little wretch, this is the whole family's daily water ration. Do you want to hog it all to yourself? My mother scolded loudly. In the end times, with high temperatures and scarce water resources, the government distributes a certain amount of water every day according to people's identity levels and family size, but I contributed a lot just now. If I don't drink, I'll die, I argued. Good riddance. When you die, we'll take all your blood to the recycling station to exchange for water, my mother cursed. I ignored my mother's abuse and went back to my room to apply medicine to myself. The place where my father whipped me was red, and my eyes couldn't help but well up with tears. After putting on my special purpose glasses, I burst into tears. In this world, water is more precious than gold. After people die, they are sent to the recycling station to have their blood recycled in exchange for a certain amount of money. 3 days later, in order to raise the bride price for my brother, my parents actually strangled me with a rope and sent me to the recycling station to exchange my body for money as the bride price. If you start this kind of thing, don't blame me for giving it back to you. Seizing this chance of rebirth, I'll make you pay the price. A lizard crawled past me. I quickly took out my capture net, pounced on it, and stuffed it into the juicer. A glass of water was made. After replenishing my water, I walked around and saw the recycling station in the distance, where people were coming and going. Some people entered the recycling station crying, supporting a coffin, but came out laughing, holding water coupon vouchers. Presumably, in my previous life, my parents were the same. They sacrificed me for their own happiness. I shook my head. Just as the book said, you can see all kinds of human situations in the warmth and coldness of human relationships in a funeral parlor. The recycling station in the end times is no different. 3. When I got home, my brother happened to have just returned from outside. Sis, I really owe it to you for last night. I'm very satisfied with Aurora. I think we'll get married soon. After I'm married, you can have as much water as you want. I'll install a big bathtub for you, and you can take a bath every day, he said excitedly. In the end times, those who can afford to take a bath either come from prominent official families or wealthy backgrounds. I sneered. Do you really think that young lady will take a fancy to you? I spent a lot of money to groom myself. Aurora has a big family, so they must have a large water ration. Besides, Her great-grandmother is on her deathbed, my brother said, stroking his chin and squinting with a smile. I resisted the urge to spit at him because even saliva was precious these days. I rolled my eyes and went back to my room. I found the glasses from last night. There were still a few sips of water in the small water bag. I poured it into a cup, planning to drink it when I went to work at night. There was a commotion in the living room. It turned out that my father had come back. All you do is gamble. You went up to play cards and wasted a whole bottle of water, my mother shouted, picking up a stick as if to hit my father. It's just a bottle of water. I won half a bottle yesterday. You can't win all the time, my father slurred. Drunk. And where did you get the money to buy beer? Beer is extremely expensive these days, my mother asked. My father waved his hand. It was free, Mark next door treated me. He said if we marry Lucy to his son, he'll let me drink for free for the rest of my life. What are you talking about? Mark's son is mentally handicapped. Do you want me to be a slave in his family? I asked angrily, my face turning red. My father had already passed out on the sofa, mumbling, drink. I walked over and shook him. I wondered, has the person changed along with the weather? When I was a child, my father used to hold me and say I was his little cotton padded jacket, and he would definitely protect me well. My mother's words interrupted my memories. Eat up, we still have work to do later, for the so-called work was to collect condensed water on the rock walls at night when the weather was cooler. I put on the collector and went out with my mother. The bright moon hung high in the sky, and many people had already gathered on the rock walls. My mother complained, "It's all your father's fault, he's drunk, otherwise, we could have collected more water. Why didn't Kevin come?" I asked in a low voice. "You little wretch, your brother is in a crucial period with Aurora right now. Winning her over is more important than anything else. This is related to our family's future happiness. Then we won't have to work so hard to collect water anymore," my mother said excitedly. "Your family, you mean? I've always been just an appendage of this family. One of you wants to sell me to a mentally handicapped person in exchange for wine, and the other wants to kill me to get the bride price for my brother," I thought bitterly to myself. We came out late, and all the water droplets at the bottom had been collected. My mother and I climbed higher up the rocks. Halfway up, I slipped, and my knee scraped hard against the rock. My protective suit was torn, and a biting cold wind seeped in from below. "Mom, my clothes are torn, I'm so cold," I shouted upwards. My mother didn't look back and continued climbing. I had no choice but to endure the pain and keep climbing. When I reached the platform, I took out a piece of ragged cloth from my backpack and tied it around the wound in the tear. "You little slacker. Are you trying to slack off again?" my mother said as she saw me sitting on the rock, gasping for breath. 5. I held my wound, stood up, limped, and turned on the collector, starting to scan the cracks in the rocks. My mother nagged, "Be more careful, there's not much water left at home. I don't know if the village will deliver water tomorrow. According to the radio, the front line is in an emergency again, and every household is required to save water. Countries are at war over water resources, and the government has tightened its control over water." It seemed that this area had already been searched. After a long time of scanning, we only collected half a bottle of water. "Mom, I can't walk anymore. Let's go back," I said. The friction between the wound and the cloth was getting worse. "No way, your brother's bride price still hasn't been raised. Keep climbing. It's steeper up there, and there should be no one there yet," my mother said, pointing to an area we had never been to before. "I'm not going. What does my brother's bride price have to do with me?" I squatted on a large rock, stretching my legs forward to give my wound a rest. My mother walked over, grabbed my breathing apparatus, and threatened, "Are you going or not? If you don't go, I'll tear your breathing apparatus apart and leave you here. I'll come back to collect your body tomorrow." Forced into a corner, I had no choice but to keep climbing. Standing on the peak, I looked into the distance. All I could see were rocks, and there were no lights anywhere. In the end times, everyone lived underground to shield themselves from the high temperatures during the day and the severe cold at night. As expected, not many people come here. "We can collect more water," my mother sang happily from behind. However, after collecting the water, we carried the heavy water bottles and totteringly made our way down the mountain step by step. Each step felt like stepping on the edge of a knife. One wrong move, and we could roll down into the abyss. Brother is also a male in the family and shouldering the responsibility. Shouldn't he raise some of the bride price himself? I dared to ask. My mother replied while keeping an eye on the rocks under her feet. "When you're taking a bath at Aurora's house, you'll realize how stupid this question is. With Kevin, you'll enjoy a good life in the future. The Mark family is also good. At least they're rich, and we won't have to worry about water. Besides, there's no mother-in-law, so we can avoid mother-in-law-daughter-in-law conflicts," my mother added. "Bah, what kind of logic is that?" I didn't want to argue and saved my strength for the descent. Suddenly, my mother lost her grip, sprained her ankle, and a whole bottle of water rolled into a crevice on the mountainside. "My water, my son's bride price," my mother shouted anxiously. She tried to reach for it, but it was too late. Lucy, you're smaller, go down and pick it up, hurry up, before someone else takes it. My mother's vicious words rang in my ears. 6. I was extremely reluctant because all the fruits of our labor were for my brother, and although they said nicely that I would also enjoy the future happiness, in my memory, I was just a stepping stone to their happiness and died before I could enjoy it. Suddenly, I had an idea. The water bottles were cold-proof and heat-insulated. I could hide this water and use it for myself in the future. I couldn't help but laugh. I'll go right away. Enduring the pain in my knee, I carefully tested each foothold as I went down. Finally, I found the water bottle in the dark with my flashlight. It wasn't damaged. I hid it deeper, set up a positioning device, and used stacked stones as a cover. I stared at the bright moon in the sky, lost in thought. It had quietly climbed to the west. After a while, I climbed back to my mother and shook my head, pretending to be regretful. My mother slapped me hard, almost knocking off my full-face breathing mask. Are you trying to kill me? Did you really search carefully? My sprained ankle makes it inconvenient for me to go down, she roared, her anger overwhelming me. I kept my head down, pretending to admit my mistake, but actually, I was overjoyed. I have the means to leave you now. A large bottle of water can get me to the next city. Let's go back. It's almost dawn. We'll come back to look for it tomorrow night, my mother said after venting her anger. She held her waist and slowly walked forward. I followed obediently behind, thinking about my next plan. 7. When we got home, my drunk father was still fast asleep. My brother was in his room, picking out clothes for his date tomorrow night. He asked, "You're back. How was the harvest tonight?" He ran over excitedly to have a look. Why is there only this much? I need to wash my hair and take a bath before my date with Aurora tomorrow, he pouted, dissatisfied. My mother didn't even bother to tend to her ankle and first comforted my brother. Oh, Kevin, don't worry, you can use the water ration first when it arrives tomorrow, we won't drink it. When I came out of my room after changing clothes and heard his complaint, I confronted him directly. If you want to use the water so much, why didn't you come with us to collect it? Do you know how much we suffered? I need to be in my best condition, my brother said, and he started gulping down the water we just collected. I snatched the bottle away. The water spilled onto the ground and was immediately absorbed by the soil. My mother was heartbroken. My brother slapped me across the face and cursed. Bitch, how dare you treat me like this? I'm the head of this family. I kicked him in the stomach and shouted, Head, you're a good-for-nothing parasite who casually takes away other people's resources. Mom and Dad have withheld so much of my water for you, and you use it to wash your hair and take a bath. We fought on the ground, and of course, I was defeated in the end. All the family's nutrition had gone to my brother, turning him into a fat, gluttonous pig. In the eyes of people in the end times, only the rich or powerful could afford to be so healthy. My brother straddled me and punched me in the chest, face, and stomach. At this time, my mother finally had the leisure to take care of her sprained ankle. After sweating, my brother said, Oh, I'm all sweaty. I'll definitely need a bath tomorrow. Mom, make sure to save enough water for me. Okay, my dear son, go to bed now. My mother readily agreed. My brother finally got off me and went back to his room with the half bottle of water on the ground. I got up from the ground, licked the sweat off my body, and went back to my room. We'll see about this, I vowed secretly. I was determined to get my revenge. 8. I lay in bed with my eyes closed, but the pain in my body kept me from falling asleep. I turned over and took out the water I had secretly hidden from my mother at night from under the bed. I took a big gulp. I got a cup, filled it with water, hid the water bag back in its place, took a painkiller, and then fell asleep. In my dream, I returned to my previous life, and the fear came over me again. In the dream, my father and mother were in cahoots, talking about how much bride price Mark would give our family, which would just make up for the bride price my brother needed to pay for Aurora. I struggled and shouted that I didn't want to go. My father persuaded me earnestly, if you go to the Mark family, you just need to take care of their daily life. You don't have to worry about anything else. It would be great to be a young mistress and live a carefree life. Before the end times arrived, Mark was the director of a brewery and had amassed a fortune. Unfortunately, his wife died early, leaving behind a mentally disabled son. I'm afraid he's not looking for a daughter-in-law. He's too embarrassed to admit he wants a new wife for himself, I retorted loudly. My father's face turned bright red with anger. My mother joined in. Lucy, you only have one younger brother. Can you bear to see him unable to get married? Surely you don't want to see the Liu family have no descendants. My father slapped the table. What does that have to do with me? Does your family have an imperial throne to inherit? You can barely take care of yourselves. Why don't you throw yourselves into the recycling station? Then we'd have both my dowry and your son's bride price. I laughed heartily. My father blew his beard and glared, searching around the room for something. My mother pulled me and pleaded. Just as I was feeling smug, suddenly a rope was wrapped around my neck from behind. The force on the rope grew stronger and stronger. I struggled uselessly. My airway was blocked. My brain gradually ran out of oxygen, and I lost my strength little by little. My legs kicked repeatedly on the ground. My younger brother watched from the side. My mother urged anxiously. Be gentle, what if she dies? The recycling price is lower than the bride price Mark is offering. My father said, it's okay, it'd be even better if she dies. Mark said he'd give us a large sum of money if we let him have her for a few days first, then we can send her to the recycling station. It's a win-win. When I heard this, I struggled even more frantically. After hearing this, my mother's eyes lit up. She even crouched down and held my legs. Finally, I died with my eyes bulging. The feeling of suffocation jolted me out of my dream. It was already noon. 9. A new day has come. There are still 2 days left before the countdown to my death. Sweating profusely, I immediately changed into my protective suit to recycle the moisture on my body. Sitting on the edge of the bed, I clenched my fists. This was the first time since my rebirth that I had recalled such detailed scenes of my death. This family is truly disgusting. I walked out of the room. My father, mother, and younger brother were having a meal. You actually got up so early, you don't usually have lunch, my mother said in a disdainful tone. Waste of space, you even lost a bottle of water last night. What? My father was shocked. Do you know how important a bottle of water is to us? I didn't want to explain. I pursed my lips and walked out of the house, eager to check if the water I had last night was still safe. If you have the guts, don't come back, my father roared. Hey. If she doesn't come back and someone else picks up her body, they'll make the money instead. My mother's hurtful words reached my ears. Lucy, you'd better come back. I felt a wave of nausea in my stomach. I took a small bag of water and went to the pawn shop at the street corner to exchange it for some dry food and money, nibbling on the food as I walked. The underground city, where we live, is also divided into different classes. The wealthy families live in the middle of the city. Aurora's family is one of them. My younger brother revolves around this so-called good marriage every day. My father and mother revolve around my younger brother, and I, the family slave, am responsible for earning money to support the family. Suddenly, I saw Aurora, whom my younger brother has been longing for day and night. Why is she so different from what my brother described? 10. My younger brother had shown me photos of Aurora with pride. I approached and took a closer look. Yes, it was her. Aurora was strolling arm in arm with another man, whispering to each other from time to time. The man was dressed no differently from us. He smiled, lifted Aurora's face, and kissed her. Wow, is Kevin being cheated on? I was overjoyed and followed them to see the drama. They entered a coffee shop and sat down. I sat in a booth nearby and listened intently. Aurora, are you sure this Kevin you've hooked is really rich? I have my doubts. The man said, absolutely, every time he meets me. He's dressed clean and has clearly taken a bath. Who can afford to take a bath every day these days? Aurora smiled sweetly. Hasn't he realized that you're pretending to be rich? The man asked in a low voice. Definitely not. He's always leering at my chest. He doesn't have the brain to think about that, Aurora said triumphantly, stretching her foot under the table and sliding it along the man's calf. Good, once we get his bride price, we'll leave this city and disappear, the man said. Reaching out to touch Aurora's hands and arms, Aurora nodded and sipped her coffee. I was shocked and couldn't help but laugh. So they're both frauds, haha. The waiter waved a hand in front of my eyes and asked if I wanted to order. I covered my face, afraid of being seen by Aurora. I quickly apologized and fled. I waited outside the coffee shop for a long time. Finally, their date ended, and they walked out of the coffee shop separately. I closely followed Aurora. She walked into a clothing store with a bag in her hand. Soon, she was pushed out by the store owner. Shameless, returning clothes you've worn. Do you think I'm a pushover? The store owner scolded. With her hands on her hips, everyone, come and see. If you can't afford it, don't buy it, and then you come back to return it after wearing it until it stinks. Are you crazy? If you won't return it, then don't. Such an overpriced piece of junk, and you pushed me. Aurora patted her butt, staggered a couple of steps, picked up the clothes, and turned away. Goodness, using luxury clothes to trick Kevin and then returning them after wearing them. She's really something. The onlookers said. I've seen her do this several times already. Another woman watching the scene said, I had a better understanding of Aurora. Looking at the time, I didn't have enough time to go to the rock area, so I went to the pharmacy and then headed home. 12. When I got home, it was almost 4 p.m. My father was nowhere to be seen. My mother took out some chili peppers and said, Lucy, eat these, then bring me your water storage bag in half an hour. There isn't enough water for cooking tonight. My younger brother was sitting beside her, styling his hair. I refused. Kevin is right here. Can't he use less water for bathing? No one needs to be that fancy. As soon as my mother heard this, she came over to pinch my ear. I quickly ran back to my room and locked the door. I could only hear her crying behind me. The child has grown up and is no longer obedient. All those years of raising her were for nothing. I sneered and took out the small water storage bag I bought today. When I go to work tonight, I'll stick the water on my body and bring it back, then I can exchange it for travel expenses tomorrow. Thinking back on all these years, I've been emotionally manipulated by my parents and have sweated and toiled for this family. In the end, they still want to squeeze out my remaining value and send me to another family to be their servant. Just thinking about it brought tears to my eyes. My younger brother is your real child, while I'm nothing more than a livestock in this family. There was a loud bang outside the room. Presumably, my drunk father had come back. My door was knocked heavily. "Lucy, come out. Are you going to marry Mark or not?" he asked again today. "Like hell I will." My refusal seemed to pierce the sky. This was my rebellion against patriarchal authority and my fate. Damn it, can't you understand human language? It seemed like the door was about to be broken down. Through the door, I could almost smell the strong odor of alcohol. He was drunk again. If it weren't for his gambling and drinking, how could our family be in such a difficult situation? After a while, it was quiet outside. He must have fallen asleep on the sofa. I continued to work on my escape plan. 13. It was dinner time, and I walked out of the room. 3 pairs of eyes in the living room stared straight at me. "You still have the nerve to come out. Don't eat. We didn't cook for you tonight." My mother pointed at me with her chopsticks. "Sis, it's all your fault. I don't have water to wash my hair. If Aurora disliked me, you're dead." My younger brother, dressed in new clothes, grumbled as he picked at his food. "Lucy, tell me, what's all this nonsense about?" My father beckoned me to come and sit down. I didn't look back and walked out the door. Stepping out of the underground city, the outside world was already dim, the sun was setting, and the temperature of the earth dropped rapidly. I could clearly see the dust on the ground being swept up by the gusts of wind. I only had one protective suit. I touched the hole in my knee, tightened the cloth strips, and tried my best to reduce the cold wind's impact on my body. I set off for the rock area from last night. I tied my flashlight to my arm with tape and climbed up with all my strength, searching for the location of the positioning device. I moved the stones aside and took out the water bottle. I took a big gulp, then poured some of the water into the small water storage bag and stuck it to my body. I carried the empty water bottle and continued to collect water. Gradually, the rock area became crowded with people. As I passed by, I heard someone say, "It's over. Starting tomorrow, the government won't deliver water anymore. We'll all have to rely on ourselves. How are we supposed to survive?" Another person said, "In my previous life, my mother suddenly showed concern for my hard work and let me rest at home. It turned out that she knew the city was going to cut off the official water supply. They had already planned to sell me to exchange for water. The more I thought about it, the more horrified I felt. The 3 of them, with their cold-blooded eyes like hungry wolves, one saw me as a ticket to free alcohol, one saw me as a source of bride price, and one saw me as a guarantee for future water. Well, in that case, I might as well strike first and sell them all. 14. After finishing collecting water, I took out the sleeping pills I exchanged at the pharmacy in the morning and poured them all into the water bottle, shaking it until the powder dissolved completely. After tonight, it will be the day I died in my previous life. Carrying the water bottle, I checked the time. My younger brother was probably out on a date by now, so I decided to go straight home. When I got home, my younger brother was crying in the living room. He was extremely happy to see me. "You're finally back." When he saw the water bottle in my hand, he immediately snatched it and rushed into the bathroom. Hearing the sound of running water, my heart broke. Damn it, my carefully planned scheme had been disrupted. My mother smiled brightly and said, "You're back. You must have had a good harvest today. Thank you for your hard work. You didn't have dinner, so there are some leftover buns here. Have a bite." I knew exactly what the smiling tiger was up to. I remained silent and didn't dare to eat the food at home because in my previous life, I had fainted at this time. I used to wonder why I fainted out of the blue, but now everything was clear. My mother had knocked me out, tied me up, and the next day, I was strangled to death by my father when I couldn't resist. I went back to my room, locked the door, took off the water bags, hid some under the bed, and some at the bottom of the wardrobe. Since the water supply was cut off, my water bags would fetch a good price tomorrow. Then I'd buy more sleeping pills, knock out my family, and make my escape. I hung a water cup on the doorknob as a warning signal. If anyone tried to break in, the cup would fall, and I'd wake up. Everything in my plan seemed perfect, and I fell into a deep sleep. 15. When I woke up in the morning, the cup was still intact. I got dressed, attached the water bags, and walked out of the room. Seeing that the living room was empty, I quietly went out. The first thing I did was go to the pawn shop and exchange the water bags for money. After a successful exchange, I went to the pharmacy again and bought a large amount of sleeping pill powder. Then I wandered around the street. Suddenly, I saw my father's figure. He sneaked furtively into a blacksmith shop. Looking around warily, I quietly followed him. It looked like a blacksmith shop on the outside, but it was actually a casino inside. I saw my father take out dominoes from his left pocket and replace the ones in his right hand. After doing this several times, he won a huge amount of money. I shouted, "He's cheating." My father's hand trembled nervously, and the fake dominoes fell to the ground. He bent down to pick them up. Two burly men surrounded him from the side and grabbed him by the neck. "What do you think you're doing?" one of the men growled. The other man revealed a tiger tattoo on his chest, picked up the fake dominoes, and asked, "Looking for these?" The first man held my father upside down and shook him. My father struggled and shouted, but it was useless. All the dominoes in his pocket fell to the ground, along with the key to the water tank. All the gamblers in the room gathered around to watch the commotion. "Cheater. Teach him a lesson." I don't know who kicked the key away, but I took the opportunity to pick it up in the chaos. 16. The mustached manager of the casino also walked over. "Lao Lu, you've been around here for a long time. You know the rules of the underworld, right?" Then, the manager took out a butterfly knife from his pocket. The men threw my father onto the table. With a swift movement of his hand, the manager brought down the knife. With a scream, my father's left hand was severed. My father, sweating profusely, was still pinned firmly to the table. They even brought out a blood extracting machine to recycle my father's blood. Blood is more valuable than gold these days. "That's enough. Let him go." The manager took away a full jar of red liquid. My father, with his severed hand, was thrown out of the casino. He struggled to get up on the ground. The people around him eyed him greedily. After all, at this time, human blood could be exchanged for a high price at the recycling station. Gradually, people started to approach him. My father howled, trying to stand up but being pushed down again. His cries filled the air. "Stop, this is illegal." The people around seemed to unite and shouted, "Ugh, ugh," to drown out my father's cries. Suddenly, he caught sight of me and shouted my name, but I pretended not to hear and ran away. "Murder, murder." These three words echoed in my ears. 17. I ran to the next block and panted heavily. "Serves you right," I spat. The saliva was immediately absorbed by the ground as soon as it landed, disappearing without a trace. I hid in an alley, ate a large steamed bun with some water, wiped my mouth, and observed the situation on the street. The situation was getting more and more chaotic. I couldn't stay in this city any longer. I touched the money and medicine powder in my pocket. I had to leave tonight. When I got home, my mother looked worried and said, "Lucy, do you know, your younger brother is getting married? We need to prepare the bride price tonight and go to propose tomorrow." "That's great news," I replied indifferently. "You know our family's situation. Your father is out there trying to figure something out. We need to work harder." My mother looked at me, hesitating but her intentions clear. "I can't do anything about it. I'm already exhausted from going out to collect water every day. Where else can I get money?" I shook my head. "You'd better consider the option your father mentioned." My mother smiled wickedly. My younger brother walked out of the room. "Yeah, sis, my happiness depends entirely on you." "Stop it. You've never actually called me sis before." "I can't take it." I waved my hand. "You've already squeezed all my money out. You eat like a pig, while I'm as thin as a stick. Who would believe we're family?" "Mom, listen to what she's saying. Without you and Dad, she wouldn't even know where she'd be." My younger brother started to gaslight me again. I wasn't the naive girl I was in my past life. I continued to retort, "I've already repaid all your so-called kindness with all the hard work I've done day in and day out for the past 20-odd years." My mother turned around, took a broom from the kitchen, and tried to hit me. I directly grabbed the broomstick and pushed it forward. My mother lost her balance and fell backward. After climbing mountains and crossing ridges every day for over 20 years, with a full stomach, I'm no weaker than others in strength. "You little wretch, are you rebelling? What's that smell on you?" My younger brother sniffed the air. "Where did you get that steamed bun?" My mother's eyes widened. "Did you secretly hide water to exchange for money?" She directly rushed into my room and started rummaging through my things. 18. Thankfully, I had transferred most of the water. In the end, she found a few small water bags under the bed. My mother was furious. "Kevin, grab her. If we don't teach her a lesson, she won't know who raised her." My younger brother grabbed my arms tightly from behind, and my mother's fist came flying towards my face. On a whim, I stomped hard on my younger brother's toes, lowered my head, and my mother's fist landed on my younger brother's cheek instead. My head happened to hit my mother's stomach and pushed outward. Both of them howled in pain. "Stop hitting. I give up. The water is all here." I took out the water bags from my body and threw them on the ground. That's more like it, you little wretch. Holding her stomach, my mother picked up the water bags, walked towards the water tank, poured all the water in, and then locked it. My younger brother was rubbing his foot with a grunt. I was hatching a big plan in my mind. Bro, I had to use force just now because of the situation. But I saw Aurora at the second-hand clothing store this morning. I deliberately emphasized, impossible. How could Aurora be in our neighborhood? I always escort her to the upper city courtyard, my younger brother said, looking puzzled. Maybe I was wrong. There was also a man beside her. I threw out another bomb. My younger brother waved his hand and said firmly, that's even more impossible. I'm the only one around Aurora. She said she loves me the most and can't wait to marry me. That's why we're in a hurry to prepare the bride price to propose tomorrow. That's great. How about inviting her to dinner tonight? Just look at you. You obviously come from a poor family. How can you dine with us? My younger brother sized me up disdainfully. I can pretend to be a servant in your house. Get out of here and make some money. Don't mess around. We're still short on the bride price. You have to risk something to gain something. My younger brother was calculating the shortfall with his hands. I'll make sure all your water is gone tonight. 19. While my mother and younger brother were taking a nap, I secretly used my father's key to unlock the water storage tank. By my estimate, there were only about 3 barrels of water left. I thought to myself, this is so little. I bet they'll still kill me tonight and exchange me for money, so I poured all the sleeping pill powder I bought from the pharmacy in the morning into the water tank, stirred it with a stick, and waited for it to dissolve. After locking it up, I went out again, passing by the recycling station. There were big words on it. 5 liters of water for 10,000 gold coins. Has blood depreciated this much? Last time, it was 10,000 gold coins for 3 liters of water. No wonder some people risk picking up corpses. The stench of rotting bodies was overpowering, seeping in everywhere. I covered my nose. Mom, little brother, this is probably your best destination, I murmured to myself. There weren't many people on the street. It seemed like everyone was resting at noon, and the crowds would come out at night. I met Aurora again, walking around on the street as if she was in a hurry to sell something. Do you want a hairpin? It suits you really well. She introduced the hair accessory in her hand. I took a look. Isn't this the one my younger brother snatched from me? How much is it? I asked. Any price is fine. Aurora looked at me. She wants to run away, to elope with that man. She needs travel expenses. I'll take all the jewelry like this, but I don't have the money with me right now. How about you come to my place at 6 p.m. to get the money? Okay, I'll come with my man. Is that okay? It's a chaotic world out there, she said nervously. No problem, this is going to be interesting. After saying goodbye to Aurora, I went home. My mother and younger brother were still asleep. I also sprinkled some sleeping pill powder into the kettle, hoping it would do the trick. 20. Back in my room, I tossed and turned in bed, unable to fall asleep. I was extremely excited. I was finally going to escape this suffocating family. I was cheering in my heart for the countdown to leaving home. The alarm rang at 5:30 p.m., and there was a commotion outside. My mother was running around in the living room, muttering, why is Laolu so unreliable? Where has he gone to drink? He promised to come back with the money. Mom, I must go to see Aurora with the money at 9 p.m. I don't care. If you starve or die of thirst in the future, don't come to me. My younger brother was whining on the sofa. Lucy, take the water bottle and go to the rock area. Bring back as much water as you can find. My mother handed me an empty bottle. I'm not going. I replied firmly, think you're too big to be disciplined, be careful, or I'll take you straight to the recycling station, at least we can get some money for you. My mother threatened, that's illegal, I'll call the police. I glared back, it's a chaotic world, if calling the police worked, there wouldn't be so many people picking up corpses. My mother shouted louder to drown me out. Just then, the doorbell rang. 21. My younger brother went to open the door, his eyes widened in surprise. And he asked, Aurora, why are you here? Kevin, is this your home? Aurora also looked astonished. They almost asked the question at the same time, but Aurora still walked in with the bearded man. My younger brother stepped aside, watching them head towards the sofa. You know each other? Aurora walked up to me and asked. He's my younger brother, I answered honestly. My younger brother stared straight at the man, his mind probably racing. Mom, this is Aurora, my younger brother introduced. But who's this gentleman? Aurora avoided answering. Oh, Aurora, we didn't expect you. Please have a seat, my mother said obsequiously, trying to shake hands with Aurora. Aurora looked around, and her smile faded. She didn't extend her hand. Does what you said this morning still stand? Aurora asked me softly. What are you talking about? My younger brother was even more anxious than me. I glanced at Aurora's suitcase and said, it stands. My younger brother snatched it, opened it, and roared. What are you doing? These are all the gifts I gave you. Weren't we supposed to go propose tonight? I'm almost done preparing the bride price, Aurora retorted. You, living in this slum and pretending to be rich. I must have been blind to have taken a liking to someone like you. My younger brother was about to attack, but the bearded man kicked him in the stomach. My younger brother was in so much pain that sweat poured down his face. My mother rolled up her sleeves and tried to hit the man. Instead, the man grabbed her wrist and twisted it backward. My mother howled in pain. With a push, the man sent my mother sprawling onto the sofa. Aurora, what kind of prey did you find? This job's a waste of time, the man said, annoyed. He's white and chubby. Who would have thought he was just a pampered kid from a poor family? Aurora rolled her eyes. Do we still want him? Yes, I only want these two. I took back what was originally mine and paid Aurora. When my younger brother saw the money, he got up and tried to grab it. The man kicked him again, and my younger brother flew forward, spitting blood on the ground. Damn it, don't get my shoes dirty, let's go. Aurora, the man said, wiping the toe of his shoe. My mother wasn't one to back down. She grabbed Aurora's hair and bit her shoulder hard enough to draw blood. 22, Aurora struck back, scratching my mother's face with her long nails, leaving several bloody marks. But my mother still wouldn't let go. The man stepped in to help, bending my mother's fingers backward until she finally released her bite in pain. My younger brother went to the kitchen, grabbed a kitchen knife, and tried to slash at the man, but the man grabbed the knife handle and turned it back, slashing my younger brother's abdomen. My younger brother fell to the ground, blood gushing out of his stomach, in a fit of desperation. My mother picked up the hairpin from the ground and stabbed at the man's neck. The man remained calm and deflected her attack with ease. He stuck out his foot and tripped my mother. Then he pinned her head on the coffee table with one hand and grabbed her wrist with the other. My mother's hand went limp, and the hairpin dropped to the floor. Aurora picked up the hairpin and waved it in front of my mother's face. Old hag, who do you think you're stabbing? Your own son is useless. Whose fault is that? The man pinned my mother's hand to the table, took the hairpin from Aurora, and stabbed it through my mother's hand, nailing it to the table. The room was filled with screams and howls from both men and women. Your family is really something. Aurora patted my shoulder and said to me, Thanks, take care, don't bother seeing you out, farewell forever, I replied, waving to her. It was still swelteringly hot. Everyone was wearing special clothes to recycle the moisture from their breath. I touched the water storage bag on my back. There was hardly any water left, and my throat was parched. Neighbors around swarmed into my house like hungry wolves, holding water extracting machines. The cries of pain inside the house continued. Stop, have mercy on us, ah. What happened next was self-evident. I carried my backpack and went back to the rock area, continuing to climb upward. In fact, I had already installed fog-catching nets at a high place, which would allow me to have a free supply of water, but the people below only wanted to take shortcuts, picking up corpses and selling blood for money. In the apocalypse, it's the climate that's hot, but it's people's hearts that are cold. Story 2. In a high-temperature apocalyptic world, I sent my cheating husband and his entire family to their doom. I learned in advance that a high-temperature apocalypse was approaching, yet my husband cheated on me at this critical moment. He brought his pregnant mistress into our home and, together with his parents, drove me and my daughter out. Since he pushed me to the edge of despair, I won't let him have an easy time either. I concealed the information about the apocalypse, decisively got a divorce, and fled. I really want to see how this newly formed family can still act arrogantly in the face of life and death. 01. In the office, I frowned as I looked at the blazing sun outside the window. Recently, the weather had been extremely abnormal. It was already past 5 o'clock, but the sunlight was still as scorching as at noon. I sent a message to my husband, asking him to pick me up after work. Just the thought of squeezing onto the subway in such heat was unbearable. As it was nearly time to get off work, a message suddenly popped up on Instagram. Liana, a high-temperature apocalypse is coming. Don't go out recently. Stock up on supplies and wait for me to contact you. It was from my best friend, Daisy. She worked in a research institute and had been conducting explorations in the desert for the past 6 months. She never said anything without solid evidence. So she must have discovered something. My heart was pounding rapidly. I replied to Daisy, reassuring her not to worry, and then urged her to take care of herself. After that, I packed my things in a hurry and left the company. Downstairs in the office building, Soren's car was already waiting there. I stepped forward and tapped on the car window. He was so startled that it took him a long time to roll down the window. Honey, why did you get off work so early? I stood there, stunned. I couldn't ignore Soren's subtle movement of hiding his phone just now, if I wasn't mistaken. He was looking at Instagram. Who was he chatting with that he was so afraid of me seeing? Out of a woman's keen intuition, I immediately sensed that something was amiss. I had originally intended to mention the high temperature warning, but I pushed it to the back of my mind. Throughout the journey, I kept observing Soren's expression. However, apart from that momentary look of panic, he showed no other abnormalities, so I had to pretend as if nothing had happened. When it was finally evening and Soren had fallen asleep, I took his phone and unlocked it with his fingerprint. I opened Instagram and indeed found something abnormal. Among the chat boxes with his colleagues, there was a cartoon avatar that stood out like a sore thumb. I clicked on it and scrolled up. Almost all of the conversations were explicit flirtatious messages. I had always respected Soren's privacy and would never look at his phone without his consent. That's why he didn't even bother to delete the chat records. At this moment, a mix of sadness and resentment welled up inside me. I couldn't help but feel the urge to drag Soren up and slap him hard across the face, but I knew I couldn't. Things had reached this point, and I couldn't act on impulse. I had to fight for the greatest possible benefits for myself and my daughter. More importantly, with the high-temperature apocalypse looming, the cracks in our marriage paled in comparison to the matter of survival. The top priority was to find a way to stay alive. I tightly clenched Soren's phone in my hand, and a terrifying thought suddenly flashed through my mind. Why should I tell him about the apocalypse? He had betrayed me, and shouldn't he pay the price for that? 02. The next day, while it wasn't too hot in the morning, I got up and went straight to my parents' house. Both Soren and I were extremely busy with our work, so our daughter was mostly taken care of by my parents. We only picked her up and brought her home during our days off. As soon as I entered the door, my daughter, a small and cute figure, rushed towards me and hugged my thigh. She said in a sweet, childish voice, "Mom, you haven't come to see me for 6 days this time. I'm angry." I gently rubbed her fluffy little head and apologized softly. "I'm sorry, Sage. Mom has been really busy recently. How about Mom stays with you every day in a few days?" "Okay, actually, I'm not really angry with you, Mom. I was just teasing you." Looking at my daughter's well-behaved and sensible appearance, a pang of sadness shot through my heart. She was still so young. How could I let her bear the fact that our family was on the verge of breaking apart? "Where's Dad? Why didn't he come?" "Dad is at work. He'll come to see you in a few days." My daughter was very attached to Soren, so I could only fob her off with that answer and asked her to play with her toys to distract her. "It's been extremely hot these days, Liana. I think you should take Sage back home. The air conditioner here is old and worn out, and the child can't stand the heat." My mother was busy in the kitchen and kept chattering. I quickly asked her to stop what she was doing and called my father out as well. After they sat down, I showed them Daisy's message and informed them about the impending apocalypse. At first, they thought I was joking. After all, such a ridiculous thing had never happened to anyone before, but seeing my serious expression, the old couple finally took it seriously. "So, what should we do now?" my father asked with a worried look on his face. I handed him a list that briefly noted down some essential supplies, mainly purified water and some high-temperature resistant and non-perishable foods. "Dad, it's best if you go out to buy these supplies at night. We can't be 100% sure about this information, so don't tell anyone about it. If outsiders ask, just say that it's too hot to take Sage out, so you're buying more food. I've made an appointment for a new air conditioner to be installed tomorrow. Mom, remember to call me in advance. Sage can stay here for now, and I'll move here later." These were just some things that came to my mind temporarily. To truly deal with the apocalypse, there were still many more things to prepare. I tried my best to explain all kinds of situations, and my father quickly nodded in agreement. "What about Soren? What will he do when you move here?" My mother suddenly mentioned Soren. I glanced at my daughter to make sure she couldn't hear us, and then I confessed that Soren had cheated on me. As soon as my father heard this, he slapped the table and shouted angrily, "This bastard, what did he promise us back then?" My mother was also very angry. "Then why are you still going back? Just let him fend for himself." I had thought about that, but although Soren had cheated, his attitude towards our daughter was still unclear. What if he had the intention of fighting for the custody of our daughter? Then things would become very troublesome. So, before I could settle my daughter and ensure everything was foolproof, I couldn't let him notice anything unusual. After soothing my parents, I got in the car and prepared to go home. When I came in the morning, the heat was still bearable, but now it was the hottest time of the day. As soon as I stepped out of the unit door, a wave of intense heat hit me, and my skin almost immediately turned red. On the way back, a large section of the concrete road had cracked and burst. I had to take a detour to get home. 03. When I entered the house, I found that Soren wasn't at work, and my in-laws were also there. As soon as Soren saw me, He came up and complained, "Honey, you drove the car away. How am I supposed to go to work now?" I ignored him and continued to change my shoes without looking up. "The car isn't yours alone. I can drive it if I want to." My tone was unfriendly, and Soren was taken aback for a moment. Just as he was about to say something, my mother-in-law interrupted. "How can you talk like that? Soren is the boss. Driving is important for his image. You're just a lowly employee. What are you showing off for? From now on, don't even think about touching this car." She had always been unreasonable. In the past, for Soren's sake, I didn't want to argue with her, but now, I had nothing to hold back. "I bought this car. I can drive it whenever I want. It's none of your business to comment here." Soren did run a company, but ever since he started his business, he had lost more money than he had earned. The house and car at home were basically purchased by me. She still thought her son was a big shot. My words once again touched Soren's fragile self-esteem, and his face darkened. "Is this how you talk to your elders? Do you have any manners? Could a person with good manners deal with his overbearing and shrewish mother?" I retorted without mercy. "If you don't like the way I talk, then don't let her come here. It's so hot. My parents couldn't stay in their hometown at all. What's wrong with me bringing them here to take care of them for a few days?" I looked at him suspiciously. Since when had Soren become so filial? Although he was always good at pretending, after being married to him for so long, I knew his true nature well. He might say nice things, but in fact, he was extremely annoyed with his mother. It was obvious that a simple air conditioner could solve the problem. Why did he go to so much trouble to bring his parents here and cause trouble for himself? I didn't believe he was being so kind-hearted. Soren was still making excuses when my in-laws couldn't sit still any longer. My father-in-law gave Soren a meaningful look. "All right, she'll have to know about this sooner or later. There's no way to hide it. Just tell your wife the truth directly." "That's right. She really thinks our family can't function without her," my mother-in-law chimed in, not forgetting to belittle me with her words. Soren looked at me hesitantly and couldn't bring himself to speak. Seeing this, my father-in-law slapped him hard on the back and spoke on his behalf. "Soren has someone else outside. She's pregnant. You should make way quickly. Get the divorce settled before the child is born." Soren lowered his head and acquiesced to what his father had said. I gritted my teeth and stared hatefully at this family of three, wondering how they could say such shameless things with such a calm conscience. "Soren, are you still human?" I clenched my fists tightly, afraid that I might not be able to hold back from going up and tearing his face apart. "I'm sorry, Liana. She's carrying my child. I can't let the child be born without a father." Although there was still a hint of guilt on Soren's face, the words he said were completely heartless. I could no longer suppress the anger in my heart and raised my hand to slap him hard. "How can you say such a thing? Isn't Sage your child?" Soren's face instantly turned red. My mother-in-law suddenly pushed me away and stroked his face with a look of heartache. "How dare you hit him? After being married for 7 years, you only gave our family a useless daughter. My son should have kicked you out long ago. I'm warning you, Felicity is carrying a boy. If you know what's good for you, get out of here by yourself." Now I understood why my father-in-law and mother-in-law were so arrogant. It was because they finally had the grandson they had always dreamed of. Their obsession was so deep. I wondered if there was really a family fortune or title to inherit. "Soren, you said that having only Sage in our life was enough for you, and you never cared whether it was a boy or a girl. Our family has had only one son in each generation for 3 generations. I can't let the family line end with me." I looked at Soren's hypocritical appearance, and memories in my mind kept flashing back. How could such a futile and ignorant man pretend for so many years with a clear conscience? I no longer had any hope for him and showed my bottom line. "Divorce is okay. Since you cheated first, you must leave the house with nothing." "Absolutely not." Almost as soon as I finished speaking, Soren refused. My mother-in-law was even more insistent. "Why, we paid the down payment for the house. What a ridiculous dream you have." That small down payment was nothing compared to the full payment. How could she have the nerve to mention it? "Either you leave the house with nothing, or we won't get a divorce. Your grandson will be an illegitimate child who can never see the light of day for the rest of his life." After saying that, I turned around and went back to my room, ignoring the curses of my mother-in-law behind me. 04. After closing the door and calming myself down, I started to prepare the necessary supplies. I didn't know how long this heat wave would last, and it would be very troublesome to rely only on my parents and me driving around to buy things. I directly contacted a wholesale market and asked them to deliver the goods to my home. I racked my brains and browsed through various materials on the internet. Finally, I made a list and sent it over. Most of the food items were storable dry goods and vegetables, such as 200 gin of flour, 200 gin of rice, 200 gin of millet, 50 gin of potatoes, 50 gin of radishes, 100 gin of dried green vegetables, as well as 100 boxes of instant noodles, various self-heating hot pots, and compressed biscuits, as long as they had the items available. I basically ordered at least 100 portions of each. More importantly, for water, I directly purchased 500 barrels of mineral water and 100 boxes of various energy-boosting drinks. Sage was still young, unlike adults who just needed to be full. Her nutrition also needed to be ensured, so I added 100 gin of beef and mutton, 200 cans of various types of meat, and 100 each of chickens, ducks, and geese. Considering the storage of these supplies, I ordered 2 large freezers. At that time, I would throw out all the useless furniture in my parents' house and use the living room to store the supplies. Cooling couldn't be achieved without electricity. My father had experience in this regard. I sent him a message and quickly received a reply. He managed to get connections to buy a diesel generator and also purchase solar panels, planning to install them himself. Then I bought a batch of medicines and various cleaning and toiletries. It was already dark by the time I finally finished everything, and I fell asleep in a daze. When I opened my eyes again, I was woken up by the noisy voices in the living room. When I went out to take a look, besides my in-laws, there was an unfamiliar woman in the living room. There was a pile of fruits in front of her. Usually, my mother-in-law would always find fault when I bought these fruits, but now she was being surprisingly generous. "Felicity, get more nutrition. The baby will be healthier in the future." She gently stroked the woman's belly and earnestly advised her. I immediately understood. This woman was Soren's mistress. I never expected them to be so heartless. Soren and I hadn't divorced yet, and they actually brought the mistress into our house. A surge of anger welled up inside me. I directly rushed over and overturned the fruits on the table, shouting at them, "Who allowed you to bring someone in here casually? Get out of here right now." The woman seemed to be extremely frightened by me. She shrank back towards my mother-in-law and called her mom in a low voice. She wasn't even married to Soren yet, but she was calling so affectionately. The more I heard it, the more disgusted I felt. I trembled with anger and grabbed her, dragging her towards the door. My mother-in-law was like a mother hen protecting her chicks, shielding the woman behind her. "You little bitch. How dare you touch my grandson? I'll fight you to the death. This is my son's house. I can let whoever I want in." I didn't pay much attention to her old age. I pushed her away and pulled the woman towards the door. Suddenly, the woman's crying and my mother-in-law's scolding mixed together, and the scene became completely chaotic. My father-in-law took the opportunity to call Soren, and he quickly rushed back home. After Soren entered the door, he directly pulled me away. He stood in front of me, seemingly protecting the woman behind him. "Juliana, have you had enough?" There was anger on his face, and his tone was cold and stern. He was blaming me for another woman. The anger in my chest was boiling over. I was so angry that my whole body was shaking. "Soren, we're not divorced yet. Do you still have any sense of shame?" By now, our relationship had completely broken down. The last bit of Soren's guilt had also vanished. He directly revealed his true intentions. "Felicity is carrying my child. It's so hot now. I can't leave her alone. I've made up my mind. Let's get a divorce." He finally said the word divorce himself. Now, the last trace of my attachment to him was gone. I replied expressionlessly. I said, "If you leave the house with nothing, I'll agree to the divorce." "Absolutely not. I paid the down payment for the house. After marriage, it was jointly repaid. According to the shares, the house should be mine. Even if you want to sue, I'll win the case." He spoke with full confidence, as if he had rehearsed these words thousands of times in his mind. "What about Sage? I won't fight you for Sage's custody." I really couldn't hold back anymore. I raised my hand and slapped him, shouting furiously, "You mean to drive me and Sage out, in such scorching heat? Where do you expect us to go? I think you truly intend to kill us." My eyebrows twitched. The more I thought about it, the more terrified I became. I suddenly realized that I had been blinded by anger. At this moment, my parents and daughter were anxiously waiting for me to make arrangements, yet I was only tangled with Soren. The top priority was to find a place to stay. I had only focused on buying supplies. My parents' small house simply couldn't accommodate so many things. Moreover, people's hearts were unpredictable. In the face of a major disaster, with so many supplies, we would surely become a target. The old iron door of my parents' house could be kicked open by me with just 1 foot. At that time, the danger would only double. Only then did I react. There were still so many loopholes in my plan. I'm not that capable, I can't take care of everyone, right now. All I want is for Felicity's child to be born safely. Soren looked at me coldly. I lost my temper and stopped arguing with him. I agreed to the divorce. I don't want the house. All the savings at home must be given to me, and I also want the car. The house had just paid off the mortgage this year. The total savings and the car were less than 1 million at most. No matter how you looked at it, I was at a great loss. Soren quickly nodded in agreement. We immediately drew up a divorce agreement on the spot. Soren proposed that I could only transfer all the property after notarization at the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow. To avoid disputes, I agreed to his request. 05. After signing the agreement, I rushed to the suburbs overnight and rented a villa in the mountains. The temperature here was much lower than in the city, and there was mountain spring water on the mountain, making it the most suitable place for summer escape. I pretended that I was renting it as a warehouse. The real estate agent specifically found me one with a basement. In the future, the supplies could be placed there, which would be much safer. More importantly, the landlord was abroad and had entrusted the rental matters to the agent entirely. As long as I signed the contract, I could move in immediately. I signed the lease for the house right away, after the payment was received. The agent gave me the keys on the spot. Then I contacted the customer service of the wholesale market and sent them the address of the villa. I paid double the freight, and they promised to start preparing the goods as soon as it was dawn. By the time I finished all these things and rushed back to the city, it was already dawn. According to the agreement, I went to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Soren still had some affection for our daughter. I picked her up on the way to prevent Soren from going back on his word. Although I didn't want my daughter to face the unpleasantness between us directly, the situation was urgent, and I had no choice. As expected, after the notarization, Soren was still reluctant. It was only when he saw Sage that he readily handed over the 200,000 yuan in his hand. When we were parting, Soren was hugging his new lover. The woman showed off in front of the child. Honey, Mom and Dad have reserved a table at the restaurant and said they want to celebrate properly. Let's go quickly. Our daughter cried heart-rendingly, but Soren still didn't look back. I didn't watch her closely for a moment, and she ran towards Soren. She ran very fast. When she was close to Soren, probably because he was afraid she would hurt Felicity, he actually pushed our daughter away. The small body fell down on the curb at once, and blood immediately oozed from her knee. I picked her up, but Soren's attention was only on that woman. Sage hadn't even gotten close to her. I clenched my fists and stared fixedly at the backs of the two of them. I didn't want to go to extremes, but they forced me to. I sent my daughter home, then turned around and went to Soren's house. I removed all the removable parts from the air conditioner and the refrigerator. Soon, the equipment stopped working. I took away all the drinking water in the house, opened the windows to let the heat in, and the house immediately became as hot as a furnace. Let them enjoy it. I went home in a hurry, picked up my parents, and rushed to the villa. They felt sorry for me because they knew I hadn't slept all night. My father offered to drive and let me catch up on my sleep. I fell asleep feeling at ease. When I woke up, my father had driven the car to the building materials market and bought various materials such as stones, concrete, and steel bars. He said that people's hearts were unpredictable, and we had to ensure our safety. In addition, my father also bought a lot of flame retardant and heat insulating materials. He also bought a lot of daily necessities such as wires, faucets, water pipes, various small items, and maintenance tools. I had no knowledge of these things and didn't know how to use them at all. Fortunately, with my father around, I felt much more at ease. My father's words reminded me. I immediately placed an order online for several stun guns and self-defense devices and asked them to be delivered to our home immediately. When we arrived at the villa, the things I ordered had already arrived. The workers were unloading the goods. I didn't dare to reveal the basement, so I only asked them to put the things in the yard. The delivery man asked curiously, Miss, you've got so many things, when will you be able to sell them all? Aren't you afraid they'll expire? I had to make up an excuse. I'm a live streamer selling goods. These things will be shipped out tomorrow. You young people are really amazing. Unlike us, we can only do manual labor. The man was sweating profusely from the heat, but he still smiled and gave me a thumbs up. I felt really sorry for him. After the unloading was done, I gave him triple the handling fee and some extra tips. The man kept refusing, but I insisted that he take it. Brother, it's really hot now. There have been a lot of accidents in your line of work. Stay at home and rest for a while before coming out again. I'm not a saint. I can't save everyone. This is all I can do. After the man left, I went to check around. There had been a plan to build a resort here before. So most people bought the villas with the intention of investment. The occupancy rate was not high. This was also convenient for our actions, my parents, and I quickly moved the things to the basement. By the time we finished these, the generator, solar panels, and building materials my father bought had also arrived. By the time all these were installed, it was already evening. My mother and I were so tired that we collapsed on the sofa, while my father was still busy. He connected the circuit to the basement, powered on the freezers and the air conditioner, installed the solar panels, and reinforced the windows and doors with steel bars and cement. Looking at his masterpiece, my father was very satisfied. Up to this point, everything seemed to be foolproof. My mother and I contacted some relatives and friends, saying that we had fallen ill due to the heat and advising them to stay at home and rest as much as possible and not go out. We had done all we could, and the rest was up to fate. 06. We hadn't been here for a few days when the high-temperature weather erupted fully. Governments in various places successively announced the suspension of work and school. In many places, the roads had burst, and the entire urban traffic was paralyzed. Fortunately, the water and electricity systems were still operating normally. People stayed at home and could still hold on for the time being. Our family stayed in the basement. My father was chopping stuffing and pickling pickles, since the capacity of the freezer was limited. My mother was also busy sorting out the things for fear that they would go bad. At this time, my phone received a message reminding me to update the system. Then I remembered that we had installed a monitor at home for Sage's sake. I had done so much. How could I not see for myself what would happen to Soren's family? I couldn't wait to open the monitor and found that all 4 members of Soren's family were in the living room. Felicity was lying on the sofa, with a basin of ice beside her. My mother-in-law was fanning by hand, directing all the cool air towards Felicity, while she herself was sweating profusely. Even so, Felicity was still not satisfied and complained to Soren, "Soren, have you found someone to fix the air conditioner yet? I'm almost dying of heat. You can't even get the air conditioner fixed. What's the use of being with you?" These words made Soren angry, and he retorted, "Can you stop complaining? They have a lot of orders. What can I do? Besides, is it really that hot? Why can we all tolerate it, but you can't?" Felicity was immediately unhappy when she heard this. She covered her face and started crying. "What did you promise me before? You said you would take good care of me and the baby when you brought me here. Now I just want to use the air conditioner, and you're not willing. I'm carrying your son. If it really doesn't work, I'll abort the baby." These words hit my mother-in-law's heart. She quickly comforted Felicity. "Don't abort the baby, Felicity. Soren is just in a hurry. Calm down. It's not good for the baby." Then she turned to Soren and ordered, "If there's no air conditioner, go borrow some ice from the neighbors again. Hurry up." Soren had to call the neighbor. I don't know how many times this was the time to borrow things. The other side simply and straightforwardly refused. "Brother Wang, my wife is pregnant. Please be accommodating." Soren pleaded humbly. "It's not that I don't want to help. Our refrigerator is not big either. Every time I freeze a basin of ice for you, the things in my house are going bad. There's really no way." The neighbor's reply was full of helplessness. Soren had to give up. Suddenly, my mother-in-law snatched the phone. "Who are you fooling? If there's no space in the freezer, you can put it in the refrigerator. Do you think we're stupid and trying to deceive us?" My mother-in-law had always been unreasonable. Her words made the neighbor very angry. "How can you talk like that? I'm kind enough to lend you things, and I'm wrong. You city people are so stingy. You're so reluctant to lend a basin of ice. You have no conscience. Your whole family will be roasted to death sooner or later." Her eyes rolled, and she suddenly thought of something. "By the way, my daughter-in-law got sick after using your ice. You'd better send a new basin of ice over, or we'll call 110 to arrest you. You're crazy." The neighbor directly hung up the phone. My mother-in-law held the phone triumphantly. "Don't worry, they don't dare not to come." Unfortunately, she miscalculated. Not only did they dare not come, but they also sent the call recording to the homeowners group. Now Soren became famous. Everyone in the group started to criticize him and said that they would never send anything to his house. Soren cared about his face and left the group on his own. Looking at the chat records in the group, I felt a sense of pleasure in my heart. Soren's mother was really something. She didn't leave any leeway for this family at all. 07. The temperature in the city was getting higher and higher. Many people moved to the suburbs. In just a few days, the surrounding villas were all occupied. It was not convenient to go shopping here, so the neighbors had to borrow some supplies from each other. To avoid attracting attention, we also joined the ranks of borrowing things. However, whenever someone lent something to us, we would return it double. Over time, everyone thought we were just here to escape the heat, and no one became suspicious. The weather in the city had reached a level that humans could no longer tolerate. People tried artificial rainfall. But it was just a drop in the bucket. Under the high-temperature disaster, the death toll was rising sharply. The government dispatched the armed police to maintain order and strictly restricted residents from going out. Everyone could only live on the supplies distributed by the government at home, and for a while, people were in a state of panic. Fortunately, because of Daisy's early warning, I had a small haven in this chaos. I tried to contact Daisy, but I never received a reply. At this time, Soren took the initiative to call me for a video. After I answered, his embarrassed face appeared on the screen, his hair was messy and stuck to his forehead, and his clothes were soaked with sweat. When my daughter heard his voice, she rushed over excitedly. "Dad, I miss you so much. When will you come to see me?" My daughter had completely forgotten about the injury she suffered last time. Soren's face was very unnatural. After a long time, he replied in a low voice. "Dad misses you too. Where are you now?" "We're in a super big villa. Mom bought me a lot of delicious food. I was afraid that my daughter would reveal the fact that we had stocked up on supplies, so I quickly interrupted. "What do you want to talk about?" My tone was cold and tough. Soren was obviously at a loss and stammered. "I just want to see if you and the daughter are doing well. Liana, have you moved? My mother is sick. So we found a place to recuperate. You've seen that Sage is fine. Don't bother us if there's nothing important." I sent my daughter away and mercilessly issued an expulsion order. Suddenly, Soren's emotions broke down. He lowered his head, and tears streamed down his face like a broken string of beads. "Liana, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have betrayed you. These days, I've been really suffering. Give me an address. Let me come and take care of you." "Okay." I looked at his crying face and felt no emotion in my heart. "Stop pretending." "Soren, what kind of face did you show when you drove us out? Just stay with your son and don't discuss me." After hanging up the phone, I directly blocked all his contact information. Soren was so broken-hearted. Something must have happened again. I couldn't help but want to see the good play. I opened the monitor and sure enough, I found that their family was in a big mess. Felicity, taking advantage of her pregnancy, had monopolized the supplies distributed by the government. Soren and his father objected, but were stopped by my mother-in-law's tricks of crying, making a scene, and threatening to commit suicide. In her heart, her grandson was more important than anything else, so, after a chaotic negotiation, Soren, his father, and his mother shared one share of the supplies, while Felicity had 3 shares. Although I really hated this mistress, I had to admit that her actions made me very happy. Soren's father was overbearing and dictatorial, and his mother was unreasonable. I had endured so much anger from them, it seemed that only a more ruthless person could deal with them. 08. While Soren's side was in chaos, I also faced a new problem. This place was too remote, and the infrastructure was not perfect. After a few days, both water and electricity were cut off. My father's generator and solar panels finally came in handy. Although it was not as good as the municipal power supply, it was enough for our family of 4. We didn't know when the temperature would drop. The 2 large freezers at home were still running, so we didn't dare to be too extravagant. Usually, we tried not to turn on the air conditioner, although adults could endure it. Children had a higher body temperature. Not turning on the air conditioner was really suffering for them. My daughter's face was flushed red from the heat, but she never cried or fussed. Her sensible appearance made my mother burst into tears, seeing this. My father built a small hut for her with waste wooden boards and put a small basin of ice in it. Only then did the little girl feel better. The lack of water and electricity was not the most terrifying thing. The terrifying thing was that as the supplies became scarce, there were cases of theft and even robbery of supplies in the community. To avoid accidents, my father sealed the original door of the basement with cement, moved some furniture and placed it on top, and opened a small door under the kitchen cabinet. Among these villas, only a few had basements. When the thieves came, they couldn't find the door of the basement, and without thinking too much, they took the things we put in the kitchen and ran away. Later, several more groups of people came. My father and I picked up axes and stun guns and confronted them directly. Seeing that we were not easy to mess with and there were not many supplies in our house, they left in disgrace. Only then did I feel relieved. When I opened the monitor of Soren's place again, I couldn't believe my eyes. Soren and his parents were sitting at the dining table, dividing the meager supplies, while Felicity was tied up in the corner with a rope, and her mouth was stuffed with a rag. She looked at the 3 of them resentfully, and there were continuous whimpers in her mouth. My father-in-law finished eating first, walked up to Felicity, kicked her, and then went to the sofa to close his eyes and rest. What was going on? This woman was carrying the precious grandson. Wasn't she supposed to be extremely precious? My father-in-law used all his strength in that kick, causing Felicity to let out a heart-rending scream and roll on the ground. My mother-in-law yanked her up and slapped her twice in the face, viciously saying, "You little slut, you've been lying to us for so many days. If it wasn't for the fact that we wanted to get more supplies through you, I would have thrown you off the building long ago." The more she spoke, the angrier she got. She grabbed Felicity's hair and smashed her head against the wall until it was bloody and bruised before she finally stopped. From her constant curses, I finally understood the whole story. It turned out that Felicity wasn't actually pregnant. A few days ago, she secretly changed her sanitary napkin and was caught red-handed by my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law had given most of the supplies to Felicity because of the so-called grandson. After enduring hunger and heat for so many days, she went crazy when she found out she was being deceived. My mother-in-law was so angry that her face was red and her neck was thick. But I just wanted to clap my hands in front of the screen and cheer. This old woman was so obsessed with having a grandson. On Sage's last birthday, she had heard some secret recipe that said feeding a special medicine to the firstborn would ensure a son for the second child. She sent me away and secretly tried to feed Sage the medicine. Fortunately, the medicine was extremely bitter, and Sage cried and refused to drink it. In the end, she knocked the bowl and escaped the disaster. In the evening, Sage kept murmuring that Grandma made her drink a very bitter soup. I found the medicine dregs in the kitchen. When I confronted my mother-in-law face to face, she was still arrogant and scolded me for being useless, saying that I couldn't give birth to a son. I was so angry that I asked Soren to send her back to her hometown immediately and entrusted Sage to my parents' care, just to be on the safe side. I also installed monitors in hidden corners of the house. Thinking about the past, I gritted my teeth with hatred. So now, no matter how miserable my mother-in-law was, I didn't feel the slightest bit of sympathy for her. Felicity was beaten to the verge of death by my mother-in-law. She lay on the ground with her eyes closed, her body covered in old and new scars. It was obvious that she had been abused for several days. After beating Felicity, my mother-in-law still wasn't satisfied. She sat on the ground, crying and wailing. What kind of sin have I committed? First, I got rid of that unlucky woman, and then I met you, a liar. Why is it so hard for me to have a grandson? I should have kept that woman surnamed Jo. This old woman was still thinking about her grandson. She was really hopeless. Soren watched his mother crying and making a scene coldly. Finally, he couldn't bear it anymore and slapped the table, roaring, "Shut up. Can you stop making such a fuss?" My father-in-law also told her impatiently to be quiet, and then she finally stopped. Felicity opened her eyes wide, staring at the three of them with a sinister look, as if she wanted to tear them to pieces. I enlarged the screen and saw that her hands were moving constantly behind her back, as if she was using a blade to saw through the rope. Soren and the others had abused Felicity so much. Once she got free, she would definitely take revenge on them in the most cruel way. I was really looking forward to that day. 09. Finally, her chance came. One night, when it was dead quiet, she sawed through the rope and secretly put rat poison from the cupboard into the water. Soren and the others had no idea. They just thought the water had gone bad due to the high temperature and forced themselves to drink it. My father-in-law died on the spot. Soren and my mother-in-law, who had drunk less, were rolling on the ground, clutching their stomachs. Seeing this, Felicity laughed maniacally. She tied up my mother-in-law and Soren, rummaged through the bedroom and found a leather belt. She lashed at the two of them one after another, cursing as she did so. "You damned scumbag, what did you promise me before? You said you loved me truly and would marry me after getting rid of your wife. Bullshit, you just wanted to trick me into having a baby. Bastard, you deserve to be childless. And you, old hag, how dare you hit me? My own mother has never hit me since I was a child. Remember how you hit me? I'm going to pay you back tenfold today." The more she spoke, the more excited she became, and the force of her blows kept increasing. Soon, Soren and my mother-in-law were covered in blood. Felicity still wasn't satisfied. She took alcohol and disinfectant and poured them onto the two's wounds. Heart-rending screams came from the phone. Suddenly, the screen went black. It should be that the power went out in the city. I calmed my breathing, recalling the terrifying scene just now. Felicity's mental state must have been completely broken by the torture. Soren and his mother were probably going to have a really dark time. I couldn't pay attention to Soren and the other situation anymore. I could only pass the time by browsing my phone every day. On the webpage, the number of deaths kept increasing. The outside temperature had reached a level where ordinary people couldn't move around. Only firefighters and police officers, relying on special equipment, were active on the front lines of disaster relief. I couldn't do much, so I could only pray for their safety. Soon, the signal was also cut off, and I couldn't receive any news from the outside world. I could only quietly wait for this high-temperature disaster to end. Our family of 3 completely moved into the basement. To soothe our emotions, my mother tried various ways to cook different meals. My father also made a lot of small gadgets for my daughter. We leaned on each other, and no matter how difficult things were, we could get through them. 3 months later, a heavy rain finally came. It rained continuously for 3 days, and the temperature in the whole city dropped, although it was still the temperature of midsummer. People could finally move around outdoors. When I walked out of the basement, the dazzling sunlight made it hard for me to open my eyes. I took a while to adapt before I could see the scenery outside. The flowers and plants in the yard had long since withered, and the ground was cracked with seam after seam. Everything had lost its vitality, but people were cheering and celebrating their new life. 10. After a month of restoration, the city resumed its operation. And I received a call from the police station. They told me that when the rescue team arrived at my house, there was only a crazy woman and 3 piles of white bones. After identification, the 3 piles of white bones were exactly Soren, and his parents. Felicity, having lived with the 3 corpses for several months, was so scared that she went insane and was sent to a mental hospital. Soren and I hadn't received the divorce certificate yet. Nominally, we were still husband and wife, so it was up to me to handle the aftermath. I entrusted all these matters to the funeral home and didn't inquire about them anymore. Subsequently, I sold the house at home. After finding the real estate agent, I renewed the lease of the villa for a few more months. I called in a decoration team and reinforced the house inside and out. My parents wanted to move the things in the basement upstairs, but I stopped them. Mom and Dad, I think we still need to stock up on some more things. A few days ago, Daisy sent a picture that was hard to understand, and then there was no more news. I hoped that everything I did wasn't a waste of effort.